The holographic classroom of the interstellar university buzzed with the low hum of translation devices and the soft chirping of various alien communication appendages. Professor Williams' lecture on human cultural phenomena had long since lost the attention of most students. Holographic images of Christmas traditions flickered around them. Twinkling lights, decorated trees, and strange creatures in red suits that seemed to defy every known biological constraint. Zork 7 was different. Where other Valerian students saw nonsense, he saw a puzzle. His 7-chambered brain processed information differently, a trait that had both frustrated his instructors and marked him as a potential breakthrough researcher. Today, that trait would change everything. Let's review the most impossible claim, Professor Williams said, his voice tinged with the dry humor of someone who had explained this concept countless times. The human myth of Santa Claus, a single biological entity who, in one night, delivers gifts to approximately 1.9 billion children across an entire planet. A ripple of laughter spread through the classroom. The Krull students, silicon-based life forms with crystalline communication structures, clicked their external nodes in derision. The Araxian gaseous beings swirled in what could only be described as amused contempt. Even the more humanoid species found the concept laughable. Impossible, muttered Crix 9, Zork's laboratory partner, his exoskeleton shifting with dismissive energy. The logistical challenges alone make this a mathematical impossibility. But Zork wasn't listening. His attention was fixed on the holographic data streams, parsing information faster than anyone else in the room. The numbers didn't just challenge belief. They screamed for deeper investigation. Velocity calculations, weight distribution models, thermal survival parameters, stealth probability matrices. Each metric suggested not just improbability, but absolute impossibility. And yet, the human exchange student, Emily Rodriguez, sat quietly in the corner. She seemed amused by the alien students' reactions, a knowing smile playing at the corners of her mouth. When Professor Williams asked if anyone wanted to provide additional context about Santa Claus, she raised her hand. "It's not about the literal interpretation," Emily said, her voice calm and matter-of-fact. "Santa represents something deeper, a collective human capacity for generosity, imagination, and unexpected capability." Her words caught Zork's attention immediately. His translation device picked up nuances that went beyond the literal meaning. Hints of cultural complexity that most students missed entirely. "Consider this," Emily continued, "a being who can apparently survive temperatures of -40 degrees, carry hundreds of kilograms of gifts, move faster than most tracking systems, and enter sealed structures without detection. If an alien species demonstrated these capabilities, we'd consider them a superior life form." The classroom fell silent. Zork's tentacle-like sensory appendages twitched. Most students saw a myth. He saw a research opportunity that could revolutionize understanding of biological potential. Professor Williams seemed to sense the sudden shift in atmospheric tension. "Any questions?" he asked, knowing full well that Zork's hand was already rising. "Multiple questions," Zork said, his translation device rendering his multitonal communication into precise English. "First, how do humans account for the physical impossibilities? Second, what evolutionary or technological adaptations could potentially explain these capabilities? Third." "Mr. Zork," the professor interrupted, a mixture of exasperation and grudging respect in his voice, "not everything is a scientific problem to be solved." But for Zork, everything was precisely that, a problem waiting for resolution. As the other students filed out, laughing and dismissing the lecture as another bizarre human cultural anomaly, Zork remained seated. His neural networks were already constructing preliminary research protocols. The Santa Claus phenomenon was more than a myth. It was a mystery, and mysteries were meant to be solved. The university's Xeno Research Laboratory hummed with a soft, ambient glow as Zork 7 settled into his custom-designed workstation. Specialized cooling units surrounded his biological interface, preventing his sensitive Valerian neural networks from overheating during extended research sessions. Most researchers would have given up after the first week of investigation, but Zork was different. His first breakthrough came unexpectedly. A seemingly innocuous local news archive from a small town in Minnesota contained a series of reports that made no sense. At least, not to anyone but Zork. Between 2003 and 2017, the town of Millbrook reported a consistent pattern of unexplained events every December 24th. Power grid fluctuations that defied electrical engineering principles. Momentary thermal anomalies that appeared and vanished faster than any known scanning technology could track. Delivery systems that somehow managed impossible routes during blizzard conditions when all other transportation had completely shut down. Most researchers would have dismissed these as clerical errors or system glitches. Zork saw a pattern. He began cross-referencing these reports with global positioning data, satellite imagery, and meteorological records. Each piece of information was carefully logged, analyzed, and mapped using advanced quantum correlation algorithms developed by the Valerian Research Collective. The conspiracy theory forums proved to be an unexpected treasure trove. While most academic researchers would scoff at such sources, Zork understood that human communication was complex. Conspiracy theorists often noticed patterns that traditional scientific methods overlooked. One particular forum thread caught his attention. A user named North Pole Truther 2025 had been documenting strange occurrences for years. The account seemed to be run by a former logistics professional named Michael Thompson, who had worked for a major international shipping company. Thompson's posts were meticulously detailed. He described impossible delivery routes, logistical anomalies that should have been mathematically improbable, and a network of support systems that seemed to operate with superhuman efficiency. It's like they have a global logistics system that can predict and adapt faster than any known transportation network. One post read, "I've worked in shipping for 30 years, and I've never seen anything like it." Zork's research took a more sophisticated turn. He developed a custom AI algorithm designed to parse through millions of historical records, looking for subtle correlations that human researchers might miss. The algorithm began finding connections that were both fascinating and terrifying. Reports of unexplained package deliveries, thermal signatures that appeared and disappeared in microseconds, navigation routes that defied known geographical constraints. Each data point added another layer to the growing mystery. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Military declassification archives contained heavily redacted documents about unusual operational capabilities during winter months. While most of the text was blacked out, Zork's advanced pattern recognition algorithms could piece together fragments of information. Something was happening. Something that challenged everything known about biological and logistical capabilities. By the third week of his investigation, Zork had compiled a database that would make most research committees either laugh or file for immediate classification. Thermal imaging showed brief, inexplicable heat signatures moving at speeds that should have been impossible. Satellite data revealed momentary disruptions in tracking systems, disruptions that lasted less than a millisecond, but were consistent across multiple global positioning networks. "This isn't a myth," Zork muttered to himself, his translation device rendering the multi-tonal Valerian communication into precise English. "This is something else entirely." His laboratory partner, Crix9, thought he was losing his mind. "You're chasing a cultural fairy tale," the exoskeleton-bound researcher would often say, mandibles clicking with dismissive energy. But Zork knew better. Myths didn't leave mathematical traces. Legends didn't disrupt global positioning systems. Whatever was happening on Earth during those December nights was real. Impossibly, unbelievably real. And he was going to prove it. The term Deathworlder changed everything. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's groundbreaking xenobiological paper had been buried in an obscure academic journal, overlooked by most researchers, but discovered by Zork during his relentless digital excavation. The paper challenged fundamental assumptions about biological adaptation, focusing on Earth's uniquely harsh planetary conditions and how human beings had not just survived, but thrived in environments that would obliterate most known galactic species. Zork's research lab became a labyrinth of holographic displays, each surface covered with interconnected data points, historical records, and complex mathematical models. The Santa phenomenon was no longer just a cultural myth. It was becoming a case study in extreme biological and logistical capability. Humans had evolved on a planet with temperature variations spanning 130 degrees Celsius, a world with atmospheric pressure changes that would crush most known life forms. An environment where biological entities routinely survived conditions that would instantly destroy silicon-based or gaseous life. The Deathworlder hypothesis suggested something revolutionary. Humans weren't just another species. They were a biological anomaly. Consider oxygen toxicity. Most galactic species had strict biological limitations. Humans could not only survive but perform complex tasks under conditions that would be fatal to others. Their cardiovascular systems could maintain functionality under extreme stress. Their neurological networks could process information and make decisions in environments that would cause total system failure in other species. Zork's preliminary calculations were staggering. The average human could survive temperature variations from -40 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius, endure atmospheric pressures that would crush most known life forms, maintain cognitive function under stress levels that would paralyze other species, heal from injuries that would be terminal for 98% of known galactic civilizations. The Santa phenomenon suddenly looked less like a myth and more like a strategic operational test. Military archives began to paint a more complete picture. Human military training pushed biological boundaries that seemed impossible. Soldiers could march for days with minimal rest. They could carry impossible weights. They could survive in environments that defied conventional understanding of biological limitation. One declassified document from a Special Forces training manual caught Zork's attention. A single paragraph described a training exercise where soldiers completed a 50-kilometer march while carrying 40% of their body weight. In Arctic conditions, with minimal food and sleep. This wasn't just adaptation. This was something else entirely. The quantum correlation algorithms in Zork's research system began connecting dots that no previous researcher had even considered. The Santa network wasn't a myth. It was a distributed system of extraordinary biological entities working in near-perfect synchronization. Each Santa was potentially a specialist. Logistics experts, navigation specialists, stealth operatives, a global network that could mobilize faster and more efficiently than most military organizations. Zork's colleague Crix9 walked into the laboratory, mandibles clicking with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. You're suggesting that a global gift delivery system is actually a complex biological and logistical operation. I'm suggesting, Zork responded, his translation device rendering his multi-tonal communication with precise intensity, that humans have transformed an impossible task into a yearly demonstration of collective capability. The holographic displays shifted, showing intricate network maps, delivery routes that seemed random to the untrained eye, but revealed complex mathematical precision when analyzed through quantum correlation algorithms, heat signatures that appeared and disappeared with impossible speed, communication networks that operated with efficiency that would make most military strategists weep. What if the Santa phenomenon was more than a cultural tradition? What if it was an annual test of human collective capability? A way to maintain and demonstrate a level of operational efficiency that defied conventional understanding. The Deathworlder hypothesis was no longer just a theory. It was becoming a terrifying reality. Humans weren't just survivors. They were a force of nature disguised as a heartwarming cultural tradition. And Zork was going to prove it. The quantum displacement sensors cost more than most research institutions' annual budgets. Zork had liquidated nearly everything he owned. His inheritance, research grants, and even his family's rare mineral collection, to fund this final, desperate attempt to prove the Santa hypothesis. 18 tracking stations strategically positioned across the globe. Each station represented a technological marvel that pushed the boundaries of interstellar scanning technology. Quantum entanglement detectors, temporal displacement scanners, multispectral analysis systems that could detect heat signatures, quantum fluctuations, and electromagnetic anomalies simultaneously. His research team thought he was insane. The university board had already threatened to revoke his research credentials. Funding committees laughed when he presented his preliminary findings. But Zork knew something extraordinary was happening. December 24th approached with mathematical precision. The preparation was meticulous. Each sensor was calibrated to detect the most minute disruptions in spacetime. Zork had developed custom algorithms that could process information faster than any known computational system. Quantum correlations mapped against historical data, predictive models that considered every possible variable. This isn't just about proving a myth, Zork explained to his skeptical laboratory assistant. This is about understanding a biological capability that defies everything we know about species adaptation. The first anomalies began precisely at 2217 Universal Coordinate Time. Quantum displacement signatures flickered across the global network. Momentary heat signatures appeared in locations that should have been impossible to access. The sensors captured data points that made no logical sense. Movement faster than light-speed travel, thermal signatures that appeared and vanished in microseconds. Something was moving. Something that shouldn't exist. Crix-9 watched in stunned silence as the data streams populated their holographic displays. Impossible navigation routes, thermal signatures that defied known physical limitations, communication networks that operated with efficiency beyond any known galactic civilization. Those can't be real, Crix-9 muttered, his exoskeleton shifting with nervous energy. But they were real. The global positioning systems showed something moving across continents faster than any known transportation method. Heat signatures appeared in sealed structures, chimneys, locked homes, secured facilities, and then vanished before any traditional tracking system could register the intrusion. Package delivery systems reported impossible routing. Logistics networks showed disruptions that lasted less than a millisecond. Satellite imagery captured momentary quantum fluctuations that suggested something was moving between physical states. Zork's custom AI began correlating the data, creating a three-dimensional map of the impossible movement. Each data point told a story of extraordinary capability. A package delivered to a remote Alaskan research station, a gift appearing in a sealed military facility, a present materializing in a locked children's hospital room. The patterns were too consistent to be random, too precise to be a coincidence. "We're detecting something," Zork said, his translation device rendering his multi-tonal communication with scientific precision. "Something that challenges every known limitation of biological and logistical capability." By 3:47 Universal Coordinate Time, the impossible had been documented. 17 petabytes of data captured. Quantum displacement signatures mapped, thermal anomalies recorded, movement patterns that defied known physical laws. The Santa phenomenon was real, and Zork had the evidence to prove it. As the first light of December 25th began to break across the horizon, the research team sat in stunned silence. Holographic displays continued to pulse with captured data, impossible movement routes, quantum displacement signatures, thermal anomalies that suggested something far beyond conventional understanding. Crix-9 looked at Zork, mandibles clicking with a mixture of fear and respect. "What exactly did we just record?" Zork's response was calm, measured, the response of a researcher who had just discovered something that would change everything. "We just documented the most extraordinary logistical and biological operation in galactic history." Outside the laboratory, the world continued as normal. Children played with new gifts. Families celebrated. No one would ever know about the incredible network of capability that had just been revealed. But Zork knew, and the evidence was irrefutable. The Interstellar Research Council's Grand Chamber was a marvel of architectural design. Crystalline walls shifted with holographic data streams, Researchers from 17 different galactic civilizations sat in adaptive seating units, their various biological interfaces connected to a central information network. Zork 7 stood at the center of the circular chamber, his research data projected in three-dimensional splendor around him. Months of investigation had culminated in this moment. 18 petabytes of impossibly complex data waited to be analyzed. Distinguished colleagues, he began, his translation device rendering his multitonal communication with precise scientific clarity. I present to you evidence of a phenomenon that challenges everything we understand about biological capability, logistical efficiency, and species adaptation. The first projection showed the quantum displacement signatures from Christmas Eve. Impossible movement patterns flickered across the holographic displays. Heat signatures appeared and vanished in microseconds. Navigation routes that defied known physical limitations traced intricate paths across global positioning systems. Dr. Vrel from the Araxian Research Collective was the first to challenge the presentation. His gaseous form shifted with visible agitation. "These readings are mathematically impossible," he proclaimed, tendrils of electromagnetic energy crackling with dismissive intensity. Zork had anticipated this reaction. "Impossible by current understanding," he corrected, "but thoroughly documented. Each anomaly has been cross-referenced with multiple independent tracking systems, military satellites, classified research facilities, commercial logistics networks." The chamber grew silent. The evidence was overwhelming. Movement faster than light-speed travel, thermal signatures that appeared in sealed structures, delivery systems that operated with efficiency beyond any known galactic civilization. Professor Kryn 9, a silicon-based researcher from the Crystalline Collective, leaned forward. Her external lattice structure vibrated with scientific curiosity. "Explain the thermal displacement signatures," she demanded. Zork's next projection showed a detailed breakdown. A human entering a sealed structure at temperatures that would freeze most known species, carrying packages weighing multiple times the estimated biological carrying capacity, moving with a precision that suggested something far beyond random capability. "This isn't just a cultural myth," Zork explained. "This is a sophisticated planet-wide operational network that demonstrates capabilities we have never before witnessed." The military attaches in the chamber became particularly interested. Representatives from the Galactic Defense Consortium leaned forward, their sensory appendages tracking every minute detail of the presentation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human xenobiologist whose Deathworlder research had initially inspired Zork's investigation, watched from a remote communication link. Her smile was knowing, almost amused. "What we're seeing," Zork continued, "is a distributed network of biological entities capable of performing tasks that defy our current understanding of physical and logistical limitations." The holographic displays shifted. Thermal imaging, quantum displacement signatures, logistical route analyses, each projection more impossible than the last. Dr. Vrel's gaseous form began to collapse and reform, a sign of significant emotional response among the Araxian species. "This challenges fundamental assumptions about biological capability," he muttered. Zork knew he was winning. The final projection was the most damning. A comprehensive map showing the global network's operational efficiency, packages delivered to impossible locations, thermal signatures that suggested coordinated movement beyond any known species capability. "This isn't just about gift delivery," Zork proclaimed. "This is a demonstration of collective biological capability that suggests humans are not just another species. They are a force of nature disguised as a cultural tradition." The chamber erupted. Some researchers demanded additional verification. Others called for immediate classification of the data. The military attaches began furious private communications, their sensory appendages working overtime to process the implications. Professor Kryn 9's crystalline structure vibrated with scientific excitement. "If these readings are accurate," she said, her communication translated with mathematical precision, "we are looking at the most extraordinary species-level operational capability ever documented." Zork had done it. He had transformed the Santa Claus myth from a cultural curiosity into a scientific revelation. As the chamber descended into controlled chaos, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity was not what anyone had believed them to be. They were something else entirely. The classified research facility sat deep within the Nevada desert, a complex of buildings that didn't officially exist. Zork 7 had spent months negotiating, threatening, cajoling, and ultimately proving the significance of his research to gain access to this most secretive of human operational centers. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, the facility's lead researcher, was not what Zork expected. Her office looked more like a logistics command center than a traditional scientific workspace. Wall-sized displays showed global positioning systems. Quantum communication networks traced intricate paths across holographic maps. Adaptive AI systems processed information at speeds that made most galactic computational networks look primitive. "You're here to understand the network," she said. It wasn't a question. Zork's translation device rendered his response with clinical precision. "I'm here to comprehend the most sophisticated distributed operational system ever documented." The first revelation came slowly. What humans called the Santa Network was actually a multilayered operational system that went far beyond a simple gift delivery mechanism. Volunteer networks, logistics specialists, communication experts, each component working with a level of coordination that defied conventional understanding. "It's not about the gifts," Dr. Rodriguez explained, bringing up a series of complex network diagrams. "It's about maintaining a global coordination capability, a yearly test of our collective capacity to solve impossible logistical challenges." The network's complexity was staggering. Multiple communication channels, redundant routing systems, adaptive AI that could reroute and adjust faster than any known computational system. Each Santa was both an individual operator and part of a larger, interconnected whole. Thermal imaging showed something even more extraordinary. The network could operate in environmental conditions that would destroy most known biological systems. Extreme cold, high-altitude environments, sealed structures with minimal entry points. Each node in the network demonstrated capabilities that seemed to laugh at conventional biological limitations. "We're not just delivering gifts," one internal document revealed. "We're maintaining a global operational readiness system." Zork discovered layers of complexity that went beyond mere gift delivery. Medical supply networks, emergency communication systems, adaptive routing capabilities that could respond to global challenges faster than any military or humanitarian organization. The volunteer network was equally impressive. Thousands of individuals who spent months preparing for a single night of operation. Training programs that pushed human physical and logistical capabilities to their absolute limits. Stealth specialists, logistics experts, communication professionals. Every year, Dr. Rodriguez explained, "We test our collective capability to solve an impossible challenge. Can we deliver something to every child who needs it? Can we maintain a network of such complexity that it seems impossible?" The quantum communication systems were particularly fascinating. Adaptive routing that could adjust faster than light-speed communication. Thermal signatures that suggested multiple simultaneous operational centers. A network so complex that it appeared random to outside observation. Military tracking systems had long tried to understand the network. Classified documents showed decades of failed attempts to comprehend its operational capacity. How could something so large remain undetected? How could it operate with such precision? The answer was both simple and terrifying. Collective human capability. Each Santa was a specialist. Logistics experts who could calculate delivery routes faster than computational systems. Stealth operators who could move through impossible environments. Communication specialists who maintained a network of such complexity that it seemed to defy known physical limitations. "We're not just testing logistics," one internal training document read. "We're maintaining our species' collective problem-solving capability." Zork's research team had documented something far more significant than a simple cultural tradition. This was a global operational test, a demonstration of human collective capability that suggested something far beyond a simple gift delivery system. The final revelation came in the last hour of his research access, a comprehensive overview of the network's true purpose, not just delivery, not just coordination, but a yearly demonstration of human collective potential. Dr. Rodriguez's final statement hung in the air, both a warning and a challenge. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to work together to solve the impossible. As Zork prepared to leave the facility, he understood something profound. The Santa Network was more than a myth. It was a demonstration of a species' extraordinary potential. Humanity was not what anyone had believed them to be. They were something else entirely. The secure data vault was a technological marvel that defied conventional security protocols. Multiple quantum encryption layers, biological recognition systems, temporal displacement security mechanisms that made traditional hacking attempts look like primitive child's play. Zork 7 had spent months developing a custom infiltration algorithm, quantum correlation systems, adaptive encryption breakers, biological mimicry protocols that could potentially slip past the most advanced security networks humanity had developed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's classified access codes had been the final piece of the puzzle, obtained through months of careful negotiation, diplomatic maneuvering, and strategic information exchange. Each layer of security represented a challenge that most researchers would have considered impossible. The first classified document appeared like a ghost in the quantum data stream. Operational classification, Project Handel. A global network that was far more than a simple gift delivery system. A yearly operational readiness test that evaluated human collective capabilities at a species-wide level. Each Santa was not just a delivery specialist, but a potential first response operator in a global emergency management system. Military training documents revealed extraordinary details, stealth operation protocols that could deploy resources to impossible locations, communication networks that could maintain operational integrity under conditions that would destroy most known communication systems, adaptive routing capabilities that could respond to global challenges faster than any existing emergency management system. The psychological warfare potential was equally fascinating. A network that could simultaneously maintain global morale, distribute resources, and test collective operational capabilities. Each year, humans conducted a planet-wide exercise that demonstrated their extraordinary collective potential. Thermal imaging records showed something even more shocking. The network could operate in environmental conditions that would instantly destroy most known biological systems. Extreme cold, high-altitude environments, sealed structures with minimal entry points. Temperature variations that would freeze most known species became mere operational challenges. One classified document caught Zork's attention with particular intensity. Objective: maintain species-wide operational readiness through annual distributed network test. Evaluate collective problem-solving capabilities. Maintain global communication infrastructure. Test adaptive response mechanisms. This was not just a cultural tradition. This was a sophisticated planet-wide operational test. Logistics records revealed multiple layers of complexity. Medical supply routing systems embedded within the gift delivery network. Emergency communication protocols hidden within seemingly innocuous delivery mechanisms. The ability to rapidly deploy resources to remote or challenging locations. Psychological evaluation documents suggested an even more profound purpose. The network maintained global morale, created a shared cultural experience that transcended traditional social boundaries, demonstrated a collective capability that suggested something far beyond a simple gift delivery system. Military tracking systems had attempted to understand the network for decades. Classified documents showed multiple failed attempts to comprehend its true operational capacity. How could something so large remain undetected? How could it operate with such precision? The answer was both simple and terrifying. Collective human capability. Zork discovered training manuals that read like operational readiness guides. Volunteers spent months preparing for a single night of operations. Physical training programs, Logistical preparation. Communication protocol testing. Each Santa was a potential emergency response specialist. One particularly revealing document outlined the network's true potential. In the event of a global emergency, this network can rapidly deploy resources, maintain communication infrastructure, and provide emergency support faster than any existing governmental or military system. The quantum communication systems were a technological marvel. Adaptive routing that could adjust faster than light-speed communication. Multiple simultaneous operational centers. A network so complex that it appeared random to outside observation. Psychological warfare potential. Emergency response capabilities. Global communication infrastructure maintenance. All disguised as a simple cultural tradition. Dr. Rodriguez's final classified note hung in the quantum data stream like a challenge. Humanity's greatest strength is not our technology. It is our ability to work together to solve the impossible. As the classified documents faded from view, Zork understood something profound. The Santa Network was more than a myth. It was a demonstration of a species' extraordinary potential. A yearly test of collective capability that suggested humans were not just another galactic species. They were something else entirely. A force of nature disguised as a cultural tradition. The Interstellar Council chamber fell silent as Zork 7 delivered his final presentation. Holographic displays traced the intricate network of human capability, revealing a truth that would forever change galactic understanding of biological potential. Humanity is not what we believed, Zork began, his translation device rendering each word with scientific precision. They are a species that has transformed the impossible into a yearly tradition. The quantum displacement data told a story more complex than anyone had imagined. What appeared to be a simple cultural tradition was, in fact, a sophisticated global operational network that challenged every known limitation of biological and logistical capability. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood as a silent witness via holographic projection, her knowing smile suggesting she had known this truth all along. The presentation revealed layers of extraordinary capability. Operational efficiency that exceeded any known galactic civilization's military networks. Adaptive communication systems that could maintain integrity under impossible conditions. Collective problem-solving capabilities that defied conventional understanding of biological limitations. Each data point was a challenge to fundamental assumptions about species potential. Humans had created a network that could deliver resources to impossible locations, maintain global communication under extreme conditions, coordinate a planet-wide operation with near-perfect synchronization. Military attaches from various galactic civilizations leaned forward. The implications were staggering. This was not just a cultural tradition. This was a yearly demonstration of species-level capability that suggested something far beyond conventional understanding. Consider the thermal signatures, Zork explained, bringing up detailed imaging. Humans operate in temperature variations that would instantly destroy most known biological systems. They maintain cognitive and physical functionality in conditions that would cause total system failure for 98% of known galactic species. The quantum displacement data was even more shocking. Movement patterns that suggested capabilities beyond known physical limitations. Communication networks that could adapt faster than light-speed information transfer. A distributed system so complex that it appeared random to outside observation. Dr. Vrel from the Auraxian Research Collective could no longer contain himself. "This challenges everything we understand about biological potential," he proclaimed, his gaseous form shifting with excitement and terror. Zork's final projection was the most damning piece of evidence. A comprehensive map showing the global network's true operational potential. Not just a gift delivery system, but a sophisticated emergency response mechanism. A yearly test of collective human capability that suggested something far more profound. Humanity has transformed an impossible task, Zork proclaimed, into a demonstration of species-level potential. The psychological warfare implications were equally fascinating. A network that could maintain global morale, distribute resources to challenging locations, Test collective problem-solving capabilities. Maintain a complex communication infrastructure. Military strategists began furious private communications. If humans could do this with a cultural tradition, what could they do in an actual global emergency? Dr. Rodriguez's classified documents took on new meaning. This was not just a network. This was a sophisticated planet-wide operational test disguised as a heartwarming tradition. The final revelation came in the last moments of the presentation. Zork displayed the true scale of human capability. Volunteers who spent months preparing for a single night of operation. Adaptive systems that could reroute and adjust faster than any known computational network. A collective capability that suggested humans were not just another galactic species. "We are not looking at a myth," Zork proclaimed. "We are looking at the most sophisticated demonstration of collective biological capability ever documented." Professor Krindnine's crystalline structure vibrated with scientific excitement. "If these readings are accurate," she said, "we are witnessing a species that has transformed the impossible into a yearly tradition." The chamber erupted into controlled chaos. Some researchers demanded additional verification. Others called for immediate classification of the data. Military attaches began furious computational analyses of the implications. As the holographic displays continued to pulse with impossible data, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity was not what anyone had believed them to be. They were something else entirely. A force of nature disguised as a cultural tradition. Zork's final statement hung in the air, both a warning and a challenge. Humanity's greatest strength is not its technology. It is its ability to work together to solve the impossible. The Santa phenomenon was more than a myth. It was a revelation. Humanity had just been seen for what they truly were.